Hello and welcome to the AI Business Leadership Podcast, where we speak to business leaders about all things artificial intelligence. I'm your host, Laura Nelson, Head of Product at Solved by AI, and today's guest is Christina Chen, CEO of First AI Talent. Hello, Christina.
Hello, Laura. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, great to have you. So Christina, as I say, is CEO of AI First Talent, which helps companies stay competitive by giving them skilled AI people. So there's a talent gap, as we all know. So their model is very interesting to close that gap by developing graduates and young professionals. We're going to hear about Christina's journey into leadership, and we're also going to talk about how companies are preparing themselves to be fit for the AI era, what's working versus what's not, diversity in AI, and more. So thanks very much for joining us today, Christina. Could you just share with our listeners a little bit more about your background and what brought you to your current position as CEO of First AI Talent?
Of course. Hello, everyone. So my background comes from really an intersection of technology, business, and people. I started my career as a software developer. I studied computer science. I started at Microsoft. And then later on, I moved into really what I call more business side of technology. I spent 8 years as an investor, a venture capital and private equity investor in technology businesses, about 20 plus companies. And really over there, seeing how what it takes to really grow a successful business from very young early stages to fairly scaled up stages. And one of the biggest, most common theme is building and scaling your technology capability. I don't just mean development capability, but as an organization, how innovative and tech savvy you are as an organization. So that really led me to kind of my personal passion then in the past few years in the sort of more people space of technology. So having been on both sides of the table, being a software engineer myself, and also being companies requiring this and looking for these talents, I've really seen how, working with in the past 5 years, working with different businesses, helping them to build workforces, attract talent, build talent in very high demand, very specialized technical areas. And that's what I've been sort of my journey so far until now.
And so what inspired you then to start your company, First AI Talent, and focus on AI workforces specifically?
Well, I started First AI Talent as a company for my younger self. I say, as I mentioned, having seen, myself graduating, coming from sort of education, academic setting, with a computer science background, but really going to the industry at that point, not knowing exactly how my skills would apply to different parts of net technology. Really, at that point, software development, software engineering, it's still the core and bread and butter, but there's so much more to technology. And also for me, as a I'd say probably minority in the space, when I graduated, I was one of 5 women out of, I don't know, a whole class of 150, 20 computer
Wow.
scientists. So really seeing how, not seeing a lot of people that just looked like me, I wish to build something that really helped the current generation of young people coming out of university, coming into the career as sort of workforce, seeing there are different pathways you can take within technology and AI specifically here we're talking about, and is not all a specific types of people as well. There are different diverse backgrounds that can come into technology. Is not just for computer science PhDs, for example. And that's really where sort of coming from my personal background, how I got to this. And on the other side is really the business side. I just saw a lot of business needs. We all know this talent shortage, talent gap, especially in the AI space.
So yeah, I guess speaking of those challenges that businesses are facing, then what have you seen in terms of adopting and integrating AI technologies as the main challenges for businesses?
The biggest challenges business face to really stay competitive and adopt and integrate AI technologies is not about the technology, but actually about the people. It's how they can build AI skilled workforce in-house and make that part of their competitive advantage, even though they may not be an AI company or even a tech company. I'll give an example. So recently I was speaking with a legal firm, CIO of a global legal firm. Let's call him Mark. So I was speaking with Mark. The firm has about 8,000 employees globally, and they're one of the biggest, well-known names in the in legal services space. And the conversation with him is very interesting because he really outlined three challenges I would sort of summarize. Number one is, Christina, I never needed to worry about AI until recently, right? We are a legal firm. Yes, as CIO, I've always, looked into technology. What's the latest to really leverage for us? Data was a big one, but really AI until fairly recently was not something I needed to worry about in the legal sector. So what's the implication of that? How do I attract people in AI without having a brand or employer branding that people know, apply apply to a legal firm for an AI career, right? So that's even after recruiting them, how do I retain them? So second challenge then he talks about was the types of people needed, and we talk about this a lot as in the hybrid talent, and this is increasingly so in this world we're in today. The hybrid talent, we refer to people who are not just purely technical or purely business, but really a hybrid of both technology and business. Use this legal firm as an example. Again, their market is very much looking at, okay, we're not building very complex. We're not looking for machine learning engineers building very complex AI models here. What I'm looking for is people who understand our industry, for example, legal here, our businesses, our business, how we operate, what our customers need from us, and then also understand how AI works and bridge the two, right? Understanding the business needs and then thinking, okay, how do I apply these AI technologies that these brilliant tech companies have built, adopting that, implementing that to help us make our processes more efficient, make our experience better for our clients. And that hybrid type of talent almost don't exist or don't even have a job title per se today. So looking for that is another added layer of challenge. The third one, the final layer I'll talk about, speaking with Mark, and this is not, he's not alone, is really how the model, how do we go about finding these talent and retaining them, right? So right now, if you think from someone like Mark's perspective, traditional model will be go out recruit, right? So recruiting would mean right now, first of all, the talent is very scarce. Can you have access in the first place? But second, as I mentioned previously, for a legal firm, do you have the best sort of employee brand or attraction for people in the AI space? Second, then is around, okay, so if we don't have the biggest door, can we leverage traditionally contractors or professional services firm, consulting firms like the Accenture, the Deloitte of the world to help us build AI, right? So, or leverage AI. But then for someone like Mark, really thinking from their own sort of long-term strategy point of view, you can't really rely on that on an everyday basis, right? AI is becoming not just special projects anymore, but actually every day can our workforces really, our employee base really leverage those day-to-day tools. And it's just not smart business to always rely on external resources, contractors, and other companies. So again, as a legal firm, how can we even sort of build this in-house, a small but significant sort of team around AI in-house, making sure they are not only retained, they have an interesting career path. They're also staying fresh and updated all the time because, that's a big challenge for everyone. There's so much information, so much new things coming out all the time in AI. And all while doing that as a non-tech, non-AI company. These are the challenges that we see companies face.
So sounds like quite a lot of quite challenging areas. How have you seen companies that have solved that successfully then, and how have you supported that with Solved by AI Talent? With First AI Talent.
Yeah, so we've definitely seen industry leaders having first moves and responding to these challenges very quickly. You will see companies who are, for example, investing a lot in building a center of excellence or their own very specific AI initiatives. I'm speaking of, for example, Accenture has a huge sort of multi-billion in multi-year initiative into that. There are Microsoft, Google's. You've seen that, and they have been doing that for years. The challenge is more for firms that are not traditionally in that space. It's not in their business, and it's not their core business to build AI, armies and center of excellence, etc. And one of the so they are those organizations like the legal firm I just mentioned. The front runners are those who are starting to think outside the box. Okay, with our constraints and our needs, we also don't need to build a massive army, but how can we, use different more innovative models to solve this AI talent gap challenge? From our perspective, our belief is there's not actually AI talent shortage. There's a talent mismatch. So one side of that is business, we've seen business crying out for this kind of talent and need. But on the other hand, we have, in our space, young people coming out of universities have very good foundational skills, but they're not quite skilled into the very specialized areas that business need today. And they're all so new also, generative AI is so new, etc. And that education to employment pipeline is not aligned. And that's where we come in, right? Some of the models we run is we run them very structured, develop programs end to end to align the education to employment pipeline to help develop people who have very strong foundational skills in problem solving, in leadership, in communications, in some technology elements as well, fast learners, selecting them and giving them the very specialized skill to be able to understand both business and AI. And for this to really work, it's got to be an end-to-end enterprise solution, right? So because you're talking about all the way from attracting the talent, selecting them, matching them to the right organization, because there may be different sort of culture, and going to a legal firm is very different need than, for example, a retail company, financial services, etc. Then developing them, how do you keeping them sort of updated, fresh all the time, nurturing them, having that network, the peer network, keeping them motivated, etc. And that's the end-to-end solution, the program that we run for organizations that need this kind of service. And this is, on the other hand, it just from the talent perspective, it looks like basically we run UK's first AI graduate program. So we hire them and train them up and give them this network effects really for everyone. As a network, because we have all of the AI talent, young talent going into the work into different industries. As a network, we can then join different sort of best resources in terms of development. They can have their peer learning, they have a community, etc. So that works really well for individual companies like a legal firm, like someone like Mark, to really tap into this bigger network for their also tailor for their own organization. And the one thing also I think is one feature of this model that works really well in a lot of companies like is this contractor to permanent conversion model. So these AI consultants we train up, they can first join fairly flexibly in a contractor model. So it doesn't take the headcount because, as we all know, there's a lot of headcount freezes and budget tightening in this market environment. So it's very flexible for organizations to spin that up very quickly. But at the same time, they can be converted into full-time employees after 2 years. So for someone like Mark, using him again as an example, he can say, right, okay, we have this workforce, and after 2 years' time, I know they will gradually transition into my own in-house capability. This, over time, that helped me build up that capability that we need so much in-house. Yeah.
Takes away a lot of that risk then as well, doesn't it, of taking on a huge headcount of a previously sort of unknown specialty in your business. That's something that's quite new and different. I can see how that would be a really good way to solve that problem by not necessarily taking on loads of people on a permanent basis straight away, but still having that pipeline to convert them from either graduates or contractors into permanent employees.
Yes, the flexibility of how you structure your workforce going forward is what a lot of CIOs really like.
So you mentioned about the kind of matching up the specific technologies that companies are looking for. Obviously, AI is really broad. What are the key technologies that you see companies implementing at the moment?
Yes, AI is very broad. There's something like 11,000 AI tools out there. One we see quite a lot in the space we operate is Microsoft's Copilot. Um, Copilot for Microsoft 365. I think that's the official name. Basically, that's Microsoft flagship AI product that layers on top of the entire Microsoft ecosystem, right? So from the very core Office suite we're all very familiar with to sort of more specialized sales, so Microsoft Dynamics, service offering, their service offerings, etc., customer service side, and this really is, I know ChatGPT and sort of different models are very popular, but in the enterprise space, we see Microsoft Copilot being really the number one and the sort of main player here, just because the sheer market share they have already, where with organizations already using Outlook, using PowerPoint and whatnot, and just this is layering AI on top of everything.
So have you got any either success stories or lessons learned then from companies that are implementing Copilot?
Yeah, so Copilot is probably 6 months, 8 months old by this stage. Company, there were some early access companies who used that before Christmas in 2023. It's very interesting from our perspective, sort of more independent point of view, touching on sort of working with different companies to see where everyone's at. Even though it's less than a year old, the technology, but the gap is already there. So of how, depending on how businesses have implemented, the biggest challenge or biggest sort of key point we hear again and again when companies implementing Copilot is around I, is around three words: adoption, adoption, and adoptions. So it's all about adoption. I'll give you an example. We have a financial services company. They started with buying Copilot licenses for everyone with the aim of driving giving employees better productivity and better service to clients. Ultimately, it started as an IT project, which many companies start that way, but they very quickly realized it was a lot harder to, first of all, in the financial services space, a lot of them, for example, work in banking, very highly paid knowledge workers who you could theoretically get a lot of RI from increasing productivity, but at the same time they're extremely busy. So they're having challenges. For example, you're pulling them out into a 2-hour training. First of all, are they coming to the training on how to use Copilot? Secondly, is everyone go back to their old way of working, doing things right after the training. And this is not just for that specific organization, everyone, because AI does take a different way of sort of a different approach and different way of working. So what we see in success story wise, working really well, and a different bank, they've started this right off from the gate, right out the gate as a transformation project. So when the success was seen, was really seeing treating Copilot as not as an IT project, but as a transformation project. They had a multidisciplinary team set up from the get-go. So transformation, change management, also people coming from the obviously technology IT side, the business side, division heads, also coming from communications, from HR, from training as well, understanding that there's a lot more work to do with sort of people on the ground. For it's not just flipping a switch on the technology. There you go, you've got the license now, and and here you go, but actually helping, hand holding them, building use cases for different divisions, getting them off the ground, having very small groups of sort of training. We've even seen this is a professional service company building what they call a genius bar, like the Apple Genius Bar, support for people in the office, and people can just literally bring their laptop and sort of walk up to the Genius Bar and say, hey, I want to do this prompt, or I want to do this thing about Copilot. Can you help me how to do that? And these small things, actions have really helped companies sort of set themselves apart and really get the best mileage out of Copilot.
And well, speaking of adoption, then I guess we spoke before about the role of Copilot adoption managers. Can you tell us a little bit more about how they benefit businesses, presumably involved in a lot of the stuff you were just talking about in terms of things like a genius bar or being a resource for staff? What's their kind of role and what then their benefits?
Copilot adoption managers typically work in the business to really drive adoption, I would say, from the bottom up, right? So there's, coming back to what makes adoption successful in one organization versus the other is, again, those organizations that have both a top down, bottom up approach, right? Top down, really giving that message that that leadership buy in of using technology and innovation and AI to, better the company and the customers. But bottom up, is adoption managers walking the floor, right? Answering questions. We see those who are, tapping on the shoulders. Hey, did you know you can use Outlook this way or PowerPoint this way? That saves you, 15 minutes and you do this 3 times a week, right? So these are very simple examples, but those people are sitting within different divisions. You got to think about Copilot is different from, a cloud technology, etc. These are going to HR, sales, marketing, right? And Copilot adoption managers will sit in within these divisions, get to know their workflows, HR workflows, understanding how Copilot and AI works in general, and then giving them solutions. So giving an example, a very concrete example, back to the legal firm. For example, they are then looking at using Copilot to write meta prompts for so some of the legal document generation and query, information query. And you can imagine it's not just a simple, ask a question to a PDF document. So the adoption manager will sit with their lawyers, knowledge of what lawyers will call, craft a very specific, what they call meta prompts that, lines and lines of them to get very specific information out. But at the same time, building a wrapper around it so people are not lawyers who don't need to understand the AI technologies behind can very easily use it without, for example, accidentally tweaking some of that, deleting some of that and getting the wrong information or whatnot. So having that as a wrapper maybe built within custom Copilots, building into their workflow, etc. And that's what some of the adoption managers do. And this is quite a new role that didn't exist before. Copilot didn't exist before. And this really helps to accelerate the ROI and the time to value when investing in a technology like Copilot.
So it's not unlike a developer putting a front end onto a piece of code to allow a non-technical person to use it.
Yes, there is definitely that, building a lot of the use cases so it's easier for business users to use. A lot of training and also tracking the metrics, right? How do you engage with the organizations is more like change management, really, project management and change management. So there's a lot of soft skills and business skills involved, understanding, okay, where the business needs and where the quick wins are. Another big point is about AI anxiety. AI anxiety is real. And, we see in the media, which really influences people on the ground. Again, that's why the bottom up, the grassroots approach is so important, because people may inherently, consciously and unconsciously, slightly scared about this technology and what that means to them. But if you have adoption managers, walking the floor, sitting next to them, building these prompts or use cases for them, they realize it's genuinely for saving me time, or helping me with my work, rather than this technology taking over my job. Is what we see a lot within the sort of day-to-day adoption on the ground activities.
So there's obviously also a lot of discussion about diversity in AI, and that's relevant to you from a talent perspective and a recruiting perspective. So what strategies do you employ to make sure that you're recruiting and nurturing diverse talent that are passionate about AI?
Yeah, diversity is such an important topic for all the various reasons that we've discussed at length at different parts of the market, and also very personal to me. As a woman of color in technology myself, I'm personally very passionate about making sure people don't fall behind in this sort of revolution, right? And this is how gaps really start to form when they're having maybe less access either to opportunities, to upskilling, to just knowledge on what's going on really, as maybe some of their peers, and giving them those opportunity. For example, we train up we talk about co-pilot adoption managers a lot. So we hire graduates and train them up into AI workforce, and specifically a special track is this co-pilot adoption managers, right? They go into organizations to do that. And we all know that by having a diverse people come into our program, they actually then eventually go out to the entire industry, different industries, to bring that diversity in terms of thoughts, in terms of backgrounds, experiences into the end customers as well. Diversity is not a silver bullet. What we do in our organization to improve diversity is really dozens of small initiatives in the entire sort of end-to-end process. I talks about all the way from talent attraction to helping them to stay competitive, stay relevant, stay engaged in AI. One big area or one big factor that plays into that is the network effect again, because we are a graduate program that has lots of people, like-minded people coming into AI, all want to pursue an AI career, but going into different sectors, different parts of the sort of economy. It helps to create that kind of support network. It also allows us as a platform, just by sheer sort of scale, to be able to go to some really top-notch people, experts in the space, and to get the best knowledge, get the best access. For example, we have on our technology advisory panel people from Microsoft, from Google, from Apple, from the Alan Turing Institute, the University of Cambridge. And the reason we can have that is the network, is the platform, right? And for a lot of underrepresented groups, they would never have had the access of asking questions, what's going on in AI, among their peer groups, among their family, among even their universities, if you're not talking about some of the top universities, right, coming from sort of more underprivileged backgrounds. And just giving them that access actually elevates everyone in our community, right? And so this is really what minorities, from my personal experience, really need, is that community, that access to knowledge, access to opportunities, and we can give them that.
That's really interesting. So I guess from your experience then, you've had lots of experience both with the talent side of things and the business side of things and the AI side of things. Just to kind of wrap us up, do you have any advice that you've learned from your experience with First AI Talent that could benefit other business leaders?
So AI is not a sprint. It's a long-term journey, right? I know we can all feel like it's coming at such fast speeds at everyone, but it's just another wave of the technology where we've seen many waves of different technology advancement. This is just another one. So really thinking about for the leaders in organizations thinking AI in the long term, what does that mean for us strategically that we need to build in the next 6 months, 12 months, 3 year, 5 year, 10 years? And going back to is AI going to be part of a competitive advantage going forward, even though we're not an AI company. That's a message I want to give out and hopefully an advice for people who are listening.
We like talking about sprints in technology development and sprinting and doing things very, very quickly and on quite short timescales. But I think that's really important to know that even although the technology is moving so quickly, the process of taking advantage of it and getting the best of it is a long-term one as well.
Yes. And seeing how different innovative models, channels, different way of doing things, we talked a lot about workforce building, different models doing that could really benefit from this longer term vision of building your AI capability into your competitive advantage.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Christina, for speaking with me today and for sharing your insights and your expertise. It's been really interesting to hear about your journey and also about the innovative work that First AI Talent is doing and addressing that AI talent gap, promoting diversity in the field, and also your valuable advice for business leaders. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me here, Laura.
That concludes this episode of the AI Business Leadership Podcast. Thanks for listening, and you can keep an eye on our socials for more conversations with business leaders and AI innovation. And we'll see you next time.